I can't exercise because my hip arthritis won't let me do it, and I just need a hip replacement. Now I hear this from time to time. Patients will say, oh, I've tried exercise and it just flares the hip up, and I've seen the doctor and they've said, oh, it's bone on bone and I've got to have a hip replacement, and therefore exercise is not going to be effective and it's just got to have the surgery and so on. So is this true though? Is there a point at which exercise isn't correct or won't help? And do people even realize that exercise can help arthritis? What people often don't realize is that exercise is a spectrum. There's very, very low intensity, even non-weight bearing exercise, very shortened range, not a lot of intensity, low load, no load, or even in water kind of load. And it goes all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which could be like plyometrics, like massive impact kind of forces and all the rest of it. Obviously, the key here is to find the person's individual sweet spot where their arthritis is not flaring up from the exercise, and therefore building tolerance of that hip to tolerate more load, more movement, more function, to improve function, improve quality of life. And even if this was only going to go so far in terms of progress, it would still be a good thing to do, and it probably would help as a prehab approach for having surgery and to doing well after the surgery as well. So it's a win-win really when you look at it this way. But what does the research show with this kind of element? So does exercise therapy help arthritis of the hip? So there was a study done here looking at responders to exercise for hip osteoarthritis. The first thing is, what is a responder? So a responder is someone who obviously does the exercise in this case and actually gets a positive response, meaning that they have improvement in function, reduction in pain. Anything that can be perceivably seen as an improvement would be classified as a responder. And this was a systematic review meta-analysis, so again, looking at multiple studies. Now it has to be said, they looked at the effect of exercise and compared it to either no intervention or minimal intervention. So we can't extrapolate this to how does this compare to something more significant, if you like. So they were looking at the effect of this to do with short-term effect and also long-term effect. And the quality of evidence that they found in the short term was moderate, and in the long term was high. So they found really good evidence in their systematic review meta-analyses for the long-term effects of exercise. So whatever they found in that context is going to be fairly solid. So when comparing to minimal or no intervention, 14% more people with hip osteoarthritis responded to exercise. So this shows that exercise beats just doing nothing and doing not a lot. And this to me is no surprise. In truth, you could even say, is this research pointing out anything new? But I think it is to the individual normal people out there, because I might say, well, of course it's going to be. But a lot of people go to a doctor and the doctor says you've got arthritis of the hip, and they go home and do nothing. They go home and think I've got to just rest it and it's just going to get better or settle down just because I'm going to rest it, when in truth, actually, this highlights that the opposite is true. Now, not the absolute opposite. You don't want to just blast it and do as much as you can humanly do. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you have to find your individual rehab sweet spot. You have to work out what exercise intensity, volume, level, everything about it which doesn't stir it up, and then build it from there. Whereas rest, no one got stronger, more flexible, more functional with rest and doing nothing or not doing a lot. So this shows you exercise is good for arthritis of the hip, contrary to a lot of people's belief out there. So it's definitely something that you should get into, and certainly that's something that we guide our patients on here at Hawks Physiotherapy. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.
Perfect.